Hi there, this is Ron from Tarot of the Twin Sun. Welcome to the energy of Aquarius. I'm recording today on the 13th of June 2023. This is a reading for July, particularly the beginning of July and the activation of the new moon in Cancer. Okay, so moon is in Cancer. What does that mean for you? Well, if we take the ascendant and make it as the hora, basically the rising and essentially the center of the chart, then generally speaking, the sixth house becomes activated. This has to do with daily ritual, your habit, investments, Mercury. It also has to do with the elevation of the self to the sixth house, from the first to the sixth. And let's see here. It's a very harmonious thing for Aquarians in general. Okay. Generally speaking, because it is an activation of a quasi-yod formation in which two quincunxes, and that's Vesta, and then this stellium here of Venus, Sun, and Moon, creates essentially upon the descendant a sense that through the others, especially the ones that you work with, the ones that you're involved with in terms of education systems, or perhaps when it comes to your money, it becomes activated, and it generates wealth for you, wealth that comes from the inner world, okay, and becomes valued through your second house, okay, which is in Pisces. Now, when that occurs, an interesting thing happens. Primarily, there's a sense of artha, or the gravity of Earth as an element, and it's through the modality of mutability, of changes, okay, through your work environment, and it produces a great deal of wealth for you. Okay, it's quite a harmonious period for you during this new moon cycle, and primarily it has to do with actions that generally sort of ground you in the fourth house with Mars and Taurus. Now, Mars and Taurus is an interesting complexion. So is the stellium, Sun, Moon, and Venus in Cancer. Okay, so a lot of fourth house activity becomes generated. It's going to be a very wealthy period for you. If you use the principle of Bhavat Bhavam, then this is karmically inclined from the 6th to the 4th house. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11, your dreams, your aspirations when it comes to something humanitarian become accentuated, mostly during this time period. Let's see here. There also is a conjunction that's not so harmonious. Mars and Uranus in Taurus. There's something about the motherland or your inner world that is coming under some sort of stress or change, mostly influenced by this opposition here, which is Pluto in retrograde, kind of on your ascendant, but also your 12th house. Okay, primarily the 12th house in Capricorn. Now, what does this mean? When this opposition occurs, then Mercury, the mind in Leo, which is placed in your 7th house, relationships with others, comes into contention with the way your spiritual inclinations are changing or want to change. So there's something about the structures around you and the outer world and the highest point of the outer world, the 12th house, okay, that generally speaking, you have to go very deeply inward into a mode of spirituality that detaches you from other people. So you're going through an evolutionary change, if you want to call it evolution. By the way, I don't necessarily subscribe to evolution anymore. There's something about this type of change, okay, where you have to go and seek out a form of moksha, a form of liberation. It's very deep, very spiritual, where you come into contention with others. You have to separate yourself from others, especially the mind of others, the mind, the childish mind of others, the creative mind of others, this Leonic energy. Luckily, Pars Fortune is on your ascendant directly, as you can see here. So there essentially is a lot of fortuitous events, coincidences that produce an effect of great wealth and generation of great wealth for you. So it's a harmonious time. It definitely is an auspicious time, and you're able to gain something at this time period. But it's primarily spiritual wealth, I would reckon. But it also is the type where you embrace the abstraction of your work. You become rewarded with your own place. It could be like a new home. It could be also a sanctified inner world that is untouched by anyone else. But generally speaking, this is a very harmonious time for Aquarians. Now, your ruler, Saturn, is in the second house, and it's in retrograde in Pisces. That means there's a hidden structure that has to do with reality, okay, that is coming to be, that is very abstract, very spiritual, and it's going to bring this harmonious energy that will help define yourself through a time of great war, great conflict with others. And if you devote yourself to your truest expression, your values, and your inner world, then you can solidify a time of great detachment, but also spiritual wealth of some sort. That translates into something else. Now, for those of you who are actually Aquarius ascendants, it actually activates your second house. You could even use the sun in terms of this, place it in here, but then it would change things dramatically. But for Aquarian ascendants in particular, this is a time where when Saturn is in retrograde, which it just got into, it's going to be there for a while, then there will be some sort of reward of a new home, a new spiritual insight, okay, that's going to come through the divine feminine, Isis, through an unveiling of some sort, through all this Venusian and High Priestess type of energy. The Hierophant and the Priestess are speaking together to activate 1, 2, 3, some sort of community, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Some sort of community where you can bring forward a new structure, something like that. This is a very auspicious time in the month of July during this new moon cycle. Now, the moon is placed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 houses away from Saturn in retrograde. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that there is a benefit in terms of a trine that activates 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Some sort of lesson about things abroad. Something abroad where you can find yourself abroad, some sort of auspicious thing. Not to say to just go out and travel. If you do, go on some sort of pilgrimage. That would be auspicious for you. There also is a period here where you can relocate naturally your home, your wealth, in terms of your home, and restructure your own inner world. This is a very spiritual time. So what else is there? From Saturn to Moon, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's some sort of creative impulse that will help you to find independence, okay? And it will activate through work and through generating a great deal of wealth through work, and it will help you to feel like naturally at ease with your own inner world, your own inner skin. Okay, so so I used a lot of the principles of Bhavat Bhavam, the house of houses, in this reading. I'm going to be focusing on that as the months progress, and particularly I'm formulating a new system that will triangulate the yod formation. So for example, your ruler is in Saturn, and the finger of God does point to this, but others get in the way of that. So Saturn, you go to the opposite, and that's the 8th house, and then the houses around it. There are occupations, so it is the south node as well as Mercury. Again, the mind of others comes in the way, but then at the same time, you can learn through the opposition of relationships how to stratify your own inner world, etc. That's just one formation of the yod. And even like sometimes the yod will give you like a half answer, or like there won't be any planetary placements. Now, yod is basically opposition, and then the quincux is around it, which is about 150 degrees around it. So those it would be like from the ascendant, or from Saturn it would go to the second house, and then it would be the ninth and the seventh houses. Those planetary configurations there would help to promote some sort of fluidity or a change that is faded, and that is pointing to some sort of fate. Okay, in terms of like, you know, projections into the future, anything like that. So there's a science behind it, and then I'll look more into that. For now, I do wish you well. I think that is the end of this reading in particular. Wishing you well. All right, bye-bye, Aquarius. Greetings and welcome to the energy of Pisces, primarily Pisces ascendants. This is a new moon reading. We're going to be doing the principles of Bhavat Bhavam, which is the house of houses. So it's a house reading, and we're going to calculate certain things in terms of aspects, and accordingly house placements and house distances, in order to see certain things that will occur during the new moon cycle of, I believe it's, yes, the 5th of July. So this is the July reading. Okay, and there's a new moon in Cancer, which is the opening. Cancer is the gateway into emancipation, into moksha. Now, we have here Pisces on the ascendant, fortune, Pars fortune, as well as Saturn retrograde, which it's going to be Saturn retrograde for a while, on the ascendant. Okay. So when it comes to this, it's very important. It's very important to note that whatever is happening into your own definition of self, it's going to come through a secret or a hidden order, an abstraction of a structure, something philosophical. And it's going to influence primarily your subtle body, your etheric field, as well, your physical constitution, how you appear to others. So there's a hidden sort of agent, or a hidden agency, that you actually particularly facilitate in your romances, in your friend circles, okay? Primarily in those two, with the third and the fifth houses activated in this sort of glorious trine energy from the first to the fifth. For example, we have a stellium of the sun, the moon, and Venus in the fifth house in the energy of Cancer. So this new moon is going to occult something. The moon becomes occulted in your fifth house, and it puts into forward in July a certain degree of creative energy. It's like something hidden. Now, when it comes to 5 houses away, as well as 5, 6, 7, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1. A lesson here that comes through an exploration of something foreign, something creative abroad, a child abroad, something like that, being influenced by the youth abroad, or the sun that is occulted abroad, or the sun that burns out. It burns out the energy of the moon and Venus. Okay, so it's kind of like what do they call it? When the sun is very closely conjunct other things, then it burns out other planets or other planetary influences. Okay, but what is being activated is the first, the third, the fifth, as well the 12th house. This is a spiritual initiation, path of initiation. Very spiritual time, especially, I just mentioned this for Aquarius, same thing, so very similar energy, very spiritual time, but it affects your agency as a type of secret agent. as someone who is sort of bringing forward a structure, okay, a structure of fortune, a structure that requires the feedback of your friends and your peers, your communities, their actions, how their actions are here to bring forward this combust energy of the sun, combust moon and Venus. So there's something about your own embodiment of the lineage of forefathers before you, especially the forefathers that are forgotten, that need to be honored this month. And as they are honored, you're actually going to benefit greatly from friends. Friends will support you. Children will support you. Creative circles will support you and bring forward possibilities of work, pathways of work. Your ability also to align with some sort of work, and it's a very interesting thing. It's like the kind of wealth you generate this month, and I said this for Aquarius too. The kind of wealth that you generate is essentially something that is more ephemeral. It's something that's spiritual in some sort of way, some sort of degree. With Pluto in retrograde in Aquarius, okay, there as long as Pluto is in retrograde in Aquarius, which should be some time, there will be a pushing forward of an agenda, a secret agenda that is based on the spirituality of Aquarian age. Okay, and your work there is to bring some sort of new dawn, some sort of new energy in terms of that. In terms of your own physical work, your own physically manifested work in this terrestrial plane, and to do something with that. Let's see. In terms of your relation to other people, that's in Virgo, the descendant here. You're going to get in contact with healers, with people who embody Lilith type of energy. The North Node and South Node are activating your 2nd and 8th house, okay, which is like sublimation of material wealth into spiritual wealth in the service of others during times of war. Let's see, your ruler, which is arguably Neptune, is in the 1st house as well, in retrograde. So Saturn conjunct Neptune in retrograde brings forward an interesting combination. It really puts you out of sight in a way, meaning you're not going to get noticed, but when you do get noticed, you are bestowed fortune. And usually it comes through friends as well as lovers or children. During this time of war, Mars and Uranus in the 3rd house, it's important to remember that there is a mission that is spiritual in nature, that will come to bring a transformation in due time. Make sure that your work is completely opposite of that, your physical work, whatever you're doing physically, and you will somehow be rewarded for that. House of Houses. So with Neptune in retrograde, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then the 1st. So it's kind of like there's something about your outer shell on the cusp to your 2nd house. There's something about bringing forward a material realm that comes from your work. You're going to be bestowed a great deal if you act independently, primarily. But therein we have it. You're sort of brought into focus, but then obscured at the same time. You're brought into focus, but then not noticed by others. So it gives you a great deal of seclusion. It gives you the ability to do things without without having to worry about repercussions. But at the same time, this type of evolution is very strongly indicating a sense of self and a redefinition of yourself in terms of the context of your society, your friends, and your place of work. And so this all links to a spiritual cause, a mission tied to Aquarian energy. So, wow. What else is there? There is a type of yod formation that comes from your ruler and back forward. This is a time of great spiritual change. It will bring you wealth, but the wealth is like a treasure, spiritual treasure from the lineage of the father or ancestors. And it burns to be noticed. It burns to be noticed. To activate something and bring forward a certain type of reality. This is a very spaced out reading, sorry, but I think some of you need to hear this. Now, in terms of Neptune, also the yod formation brings about healing and a balancing out of karmic accounts when it comes to other relationships. Your other relationships aren't greatly impacted in terms of your own personal sort of evolution, if you want to call it that. But you can heal and affect certain karmas by providing that you you embrace the sort of you use some of the artifacts or the secret weapons of love or of grand lineage. You embrace these secret weapons. You use them momentarily just to heal up karmas with other people. So that, yeah, very spaced out. Hopefully that's given some insight. Greetings and welcome to Aries. This is a reading for Aries on Tarot of the Twin Sun. And today in particular is the 16th of June 2024. We're doing a prognosis for the month of July. It's already July. So we're more than halfway throughout the year. In terms of this reading, primarily we'll be using the principle of House of Bhava to Bhavam, House of Houses. Okay. So we're going to be using some of those techniques in order to simply see how house difference from house to house and planetary influences within those houses kind of create an interesting interpretation for the month of July. And we're using the 6th of July 2024 at about 12:30 Greenwich Mean Time. So in terms of this reading, it's going to be a prognosis for the month of July for the energy of Aries, especially Aries ascendant. Now, on the ascendant, okay, within a varying degree of 15 degrees, the North Node, that is Rahu, as well as Pars Fortune, the fortunate part, or fortunate parts, and Chiron, they work on the ascendant. They work magic on the ascendant. It's going to be a very intense time for Aries. They may come off as very passive, but then still have a very active influence in their passivity. Your desires come to manifest, and you become with Rahu or the North Node placed on your ascendant, you give off the impression that your desires are not to be contained. You wear them on your sleeve for this month. And it's very intense, considering that when the North Node is activated, of course, the South Node is also activated, and yours is in Libra in the 7th house. Okay, that is for Aries ascendant in particular. No particular yod formation other than the hidden finger, the hidden half finger, which is Vesta and Lilith on your descendant. So a lot of like how you place yourself in situations, your desires will manifest when it comes to relationships. And you are here to teach these people lessons about dreams, latent dreams, with Neptune retrograde in Pisces. So when it comes to your ruler, your activation primarily is in the second house. In a time of war or in a time of calamity, Taurus, which has been sort of majorly afflicted in the past readings that we've done astrologically, is activating your second house, and it creates a dual sextile and a trine configuration here. Dual sextile and trine. What does this point to? It points to a great deal of resourcefulness, for one thing. A spiritual awakening, very much so, that activates your 4th and 12th houses, which are, of course, moksha houses, houses of liberation. What else? It also activates a period of like gathering or gaining treasure. Okay, this type of treasure is not normal. It's spiritual treasure, spiritual technology as well. With the 2nd, 4th, and 12th houses activated, okay, Saturn in retrograde in Pisces is going to give you a great spiritual chance here to open up the gateway, that is the 4th house, and the end goal of spiritual liberation. And it's done harmoniously to bring forward a great deal of wealth in a time of war and a time of conflict. So there's going to be this kind of inflationary time where you are able to allocate or relocate your spiritual values in order so that they align with your material values together. And with the placement of Rahu and the South Node in your 1st and 7th axis, there's an activation of dealing with others, either losing those others or losing the situation, in order to bring forward a great deal of spiritual attunement. So this is a time of tuning, most definitely. Mars and Uranus fighting together here in the 2nd house, it brings forward a reality of war. It brings forward a world of war. Not to be like a nay or doomsayer, but there's basically the conflict that's occurring in terms of survivability and Taurian capacity. Your investments, okay, will be under duress, but not to worry. You're supposed to address this as they align. Your values align with a shifting Plutonian aspect here. That is forming a trine with your 2nd house. There's something about Aquarius or the Aquarian age going to gift you with a time to shift and transform, a time and space to shift and transform to something new. And it's going to oppose your relationships, your need for independence. It's going to force you into karmic situations, and karmic situations are neither good nor bad, in order to get rid or expunge a certain degree of karma when it relates to others. But primarily this month is very spiritual. It's very much deep within. And because of the house of houses, which is, if we look at your dispositor, which is Mars, it's in your 2nd house currently. So what is activated is basically an opportunity to gain revenue or to gain some sort of grounding in the spiritual realm. So like spiritual wealth or spiritual grounding, both are the same. Also, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 houses away. There's something about particularly the number 12 and the 12th house and the gateway into the infinite, the gateway into spirituality, complete spirituality, is here. And it's going to do some very interesting things, primarily. there's a period of conflict and resolution, peacemaking, that you can have by executing the karmas, whether they're good or bad, doesn't matter, just as long as they're done, and do what has to be said, do what has to be done, in order that you may become free and liberated from those karmas. Okay, so hopefully that's given some insight in terms of the principle of Bhavat Bhavam for the month of July 6th, 2024. And there is more. Let's see here. Primarily the stellium, Sun and Moon in Cancer and Venus in Cancer on this particular day will activate a very deep-seated need to embrace the dual horses or the dual sphinxes of the chariot, okay, in terms of the major arcana. So chariot is all about great wealth when it comes to creativity, when it comes to also messages from the Divine Mother. And furthermore, it has to do with alignment, okay, of combusting Venus's energy through solar radiation, through solar wealth, okay, primarily. So this has to do with purification. This is a time of great purification, very spiritual time. You're going to meet people that have this Ketu energy, that are here to be sort of karmic reckoners and alleviate karmas. You're going to meet those people in this particular month in order to address some of those karmas and get them free so that you can find liberation. All right, so hopefully that helps. Take care. Bye-bye. Hi there, this is Ron from Tarot of the Twin Sun. This is a reading for Taurus for the month of July 2024. And we are looking at the principles of Bhavat Bhavam, the house of houses, the house of houses. And with this reading, which is a prognosis for the day of July 5th, 2024, we're looking into the month of July for the energy of Taurus. Now, this is primarily a moon reading, but we're also going to be doing the house of houses, or the houses of houses. So we'll be looking at house aspects and how things may turn out in terms of lessons or situations of karma that have to do with the energy of Taurus. Firstly, the moon will be activated on your 3rd and your 11th houses. Okay, this is a harmonious aspect. Primarily, it is a sextile from the cusp of Taurus to the energy of Cancer. So there's an activation of your 3rd house primarily. This is especially for Taurus ascendants, Taurian ascendants. And with this, the 1st house, the 3rd house also activates a lesson to the 11th, okay, which is the cusp of Taurus. So what does that mean? Well, firstly, the path of Kama is very much accentuated in the month of July. So the mind, the manas, principles of the mind will come into reality. This has to do with lessons that are based under the mercurial disposition of your 3rd house. The moon being placed there, you're going to attract a lot of emotionally intelligent or emotionally astute people who have a great deal of intellect in terms of your friend circles or your neighborhood, your community, your place of work, your city, okay, your metropolis, all of this, promoting your 3rd house, okay, and moving to the 11th as well. And with this, there is a possibility of really coming into, with this type of energy, your friends impressing upon you on collective goals of the Aquarian age or of spiritual communities or of dreams. Your friends coming in through dreams, people who are truly your friends, basically the ones that even are not there are still there, sort of thing, impress upon you some of their teachings or their understandings in terms of a psychic capacity to give you, okay, to implant upon you desires that are not entirely your own, that are of a common good, that are humanitarian. Okay, these are all sort of being pointed to with this chart in particular. Now, so for this month, this activation provides for Taurians, okay, an interesting thing, wherein your subtle body, your physical body, how you're perceived, your expressions, have this manglic sort of capacity. You are a karma starter. You are here to execute certain karmas with your friends. Okay, your friends who are somewhat have certain values. Okay, that are based on your 11th house. Your 11th house, especially for Taurian ascendants, has Saturn retrograde in Pisces. Okay, so hidden structures, hidden modalities of spirituality are very much in operation this month, and it provides for you a sense of what to do. Okay, how your body is generating energy in order to produce a certain effect within your friend circle and within like the global state of things, the spiritual state of things, the 11th house. Okay. And this is all very auspicious because it activates primarily 2 sextiles and a trine between your 3rd and your 11th. And with the Sun, Moon conjunct, obviously, the new moon, plus Venus there conjunct, the Sun saturates any sort of, or filters out, it purifies any impurities in the mind as well as in your value system, even especially with partners, people you deal with. Okay. Now your 7th house is not greatly aspected currently, which is a good thing. So toxic relationships, or perhaps the more significant relationships that you have, for example, soul connections, they're not greatly tarnished currently. However, there is a need to address karma, and that's accentuated by this red line here from the 4th to the 11th, where Mercury is opposite, on a collective level, opposite Pluto in retrograde. Okay, and Pluto's in Aquarius. Now, one of the esoteric takeaways in terms of this opposition is that your own inner world is coming under the duress of hidden wars or spiritual wars, okay, that produce a very interesting effect and help you to define your actions in a time of spiritual warfare. Because Pluto in retrograde, Pluto is also a war bringer, okay, much like Mars. Even Venus is also potentially a war bringer, but this is like a spiritual war, okay? That's like Pluto is like a ruler of the 8th house, co-ruler Mars, and it's in retrograde in Aquarius energy, meaning that there is a present moment, okay? Aquarius's future, the modality of Aquarius is also comma. It's air as a modality. It's in retrograde in the 10th house, meaning that there are collective karmas that come against your own constitution, that come against your home, and it puts it into duress. It kicks in like almost like a survivability instinct, and it forces you into a mode of isolation or detachment. So this kind of like weird apathy, or like this weird sort of limbo phase, okay, where Mercury and Pluto in retrograde are in opposition for the opening of July, will produce certain effects. It will get you in contact with a deeper form of spirituality. Neptune in retrograde in the cusp of the 11th and 12th houses in Pisces, okay? And generally speaking, you're going to be able to define yourself in relation to your friends, in relation to the common good or spiritual community, and bring forward kind of a way to address collective karmas in general, address the difference between futures and pasts that are no longer necessary, to be completely present in the moment, okay? But at a certain cost. You have to find out where home is. You have to find out your own inner world. You have to define some of those things very much. And with Mars, Pars Fortune, and Uranus on your ascendant, and closely moving into the second house also, there's something about the way you are perceived in terms of like random actions or random rapid fire energy. So it's very much important that you ground yourself through your friends and through mission, like through this idea of a mission that is beyond just your physical body. And you will be rewarded for that process. Generally speaking, it is a good month. Look to your friends, look to what they're into, their dreams, their hopes, their aspirations, and try to align yourself in terms of your own actions and bringing in thoughtful representations of karma, of the mind, of desires, and shaping those into something that can be used in terms of instrumentation on a grander scale of a spiritual dimension, a spiritual war, something like that. Yeah, hopefully that has helped. A bit spacious there. Do wish you well for this month, my dear Taurians. Take care now. Bye-bye. Hi there, this is Ron from Terror of the Twin Sun. Welcome, Gemini, to your particular slot, the reading for the new moon. And we're using the principle of Baba and the house of houses in order to figure out what's going on in terms of July's energy. Now, the interesting thing is that it's generally speaking going to be a very I would say transcendental time, abstractions, spirituality, because it moon happens basically on the second house, but also on the 12th house. If we count houses from Cancer, the cusp of Cancer, the moon, 14.23 degrees up to the energy of Gemini. That's 12 houses away. Okay. 12th house is moksha. It has to do with spiritual liberation. It has to do with also the placement from Gemini into the new moon's energy. So what's happening and occurring for especially Gemini ascendants in the second house. Okay, what does that mean? It's kind of like a moon in Taurus. It functions, behaves in dignity, meaning that there is a type of solar programming that goes into the mind around this time, and it grounds you in the energy of Taurian capacity. Okay. Also, the Divine Mother, through the energy of Cancer, comes. She comes and she brings this illumination. New moons are all about new beginnings, so it has to do with new family, new territory, new wealth, new stability, something like that. Something to bring in the resourcefulness of the Taurian house. Okay. Now we're gonna go directly into the reading and let's see what's activated here. So when it comes to your planetary ruler, which of course is Mercury, it's important to note that during this time period, Mercury accentuates your third house, okay? Especially if you're a Gemini ascendant. Now, with that, there's a possibility of great insight through primarily friends, okay? Friend circles. And they impart upon you a lesson of sorts, especially with the sextile forming here between Mercury and Jupiter. Now, when Mercury and Jupiter connect, there's an activation of the disciple and the guru, and people will project onto you. Especially your friends or your siblings will project onto you, especially your neighbors or your coworkers, something like that. Your community will project onto you this idea that you can teach, you can teach or you can give lessons. Okay, you seem like someone who, at least on an auric level, are capable of expanding or blowing their mindset. Okay, now. It's not usually the go-to forte with Jupiter on your ascendant, which is basically in Gemini. There's a great potentiality for primarily embodying in a dualistic way this relationship between the disciple and the master. Now, the true essence of that is that the Jupiter is within the disciple, and the disciple is within the master. So there's something about the dualistic way of the transference of knowledge from localized to intergalactic systems. Okay, that you will be fortunate enough to embody these codes, these streams of information. Okay, and impart them upon your friends, and also receive from your friends some of these lessons. Okay, now with Mars, before we go to that conjunction, we're gonna go Mercury, House of Houses, Bhavat Bhavam, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So 11 and 12, your ascendant and the new moon energy is activating your 11th and 12th houses, 11 and 12 houses away, 11th and 12 houses away from your planetary ruler, your dispositor. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, a lot of what you have won't be yours in terms of the type of wealth you may generate, especially the wealth, but also the spiritual sort of understanding. There's a type of dissolution energy with Mars and Taurus, that type of affliction, and Uranus. Now you're going to find that within a lot of relationships or people dealing with relationships, you may find that a lot of people are getting out of certain situations. There's a time of dissolution in terms of their situation, not in particularly yours, but their situations, meaning people that you observe in terms of places of work or spiritual communities, or especially with Taurus, relationships, and those coming through a big period of transformation. And it kind of frees up some type of energy here. Conflict, war, resolution through that will bring forward some release of karma. The 10th, 12th, and 2nd house is activated for you in particular, which means that there's a type of liberation of karma, but also liberation of something from the system, gaining from it somehow. With the new moon's energy in the 2nd house, there's some sort of new beginning, at least in terms of finances, in terms of generating not only a survival instinct, but satiating it at the same time. Okay, Venus also there, tightly aspected within the new moon's energy. So I think it's pretty fascinating. 11th, 12th house is activated. As you can see here, most of the activation goes through the 10th, 11th, 12th, 1st and 2nd houses. There is an opposition here of Mercury, which is your ruler. to the ninth house. So there might be like particular blocks or stepping stones that need to be crossed in terms of Aquarian type of energy. Okay. So this is like spiritual systems, timelines, and renegotiating those timelines, waiting for those timelines to change or evolve or somewhat go somewhere. Requires finesse and the sort of the critical objectivity of Aquarius to step back and let those desires shape into intentions. Okay. So hopefully that is somewhat of an indication, because also it's not a tight aspect, but it's somewhat on the IC and the MC according to this chart in particular. So something about this great lesson, this time of great lessons, when it comes to dealing with timelines and letting those timelines sort of cut loose and be free, is a big motif here, and it allows you to clear the karmic plate so that Taurus, the energy of Taurus can sort of receive in an Empress type of way. So hopefully that's given some sort of clarity for this month. I do wish you well. Take care now. Bye-bye. Greetings and welcome to the energy of Cancer. This is Ron from Tarot of the Twin Sun. This is a reading for the month of July 2024. Prognosis on the date of the 19th of June 2024. The actual chart we're going to use, I believe, is on the 5th or the 6th of July. There's a new moon there that occurs well, Greenwich Mean Time, basically at 10:57 p.m. And the activation is on the ascendant, or the moon placement, rather, in Cancer. So what does that mean? It means that there's a great accentuation of yourself, a culmination, a completion, also a rebirthing cycle with the new moon energy. Okay. So it's very much going to be a totally chariot-like time. There's going to be a sense of sacrifice, a very slight sacrifice, and it will activate a completion cycle. Okay. So we're looking now at the chart for Saturday, the 6th of July, 2024, and the sun and the moon are combust, forming a new moon energy. The sun combusts the moon's energy, so basically the moon becomes extremely hidden, and it activates something for you. In particular, it activates a strong trine to the 10th house, okay, and Saturn retrograde in Pisces there. So there's a kind of hidden way that things work out societally on a karmic level, and you may be observing on a collective level, okay? Spiritual communities that are somewhat influencing the way things work out in terms of your own karma. Okay, the 10th house is about career, it's about karma, it's about the accumulation of prarabdha, and basically that is like all cumulative actions forming into the nexus of the 10th house, which in an interesting way activates your, it activates, because Saturn's in retrograde there, it activates old or dormant relations, okay, connections with the past, and learning the lessons that have not yet been gleaned there. How there might be hidden forms of binding with past connections, or perhaps certain karmas that are coming to light as actions that have been had or done or said even without having been said or done them. There still is an effect there that speaks about very, very abstract connections, karmic connections, and learning from those connections, okay? This also activates a dual sextile here in the 11th and the first houses. So the 1st, the 10th, and the 11th. are very much activated. In a way, it's more like the ninth. So 9th, 10th, and 9th, 10th, 11th are very 12th and the 1st. Those are all activation points. Okay. And what does that mean here? It means that there may be distant futures that you may become privy to, that you might find home in, or that you might find action to place into. So doing things with friends, okay, especially friends that are very fixed on the dream world or the goals or ambitions, letting things work out with them in terms of friends or distant relations or people abroad, people of the future especially. They come into this time period and they activate for you a chance to define yourself, to bolster yourself with the new moon energy in Cancer. So this is your new moon, and it is a fortunate time, Pars Fortune, as well as Venus activating the first and the second house cusp. Okay, what does that mean? Well, basically, with a conjunction of Venus and Mercury around the second house, then there's a distinct ability for you to define yourself, especially the way you work with reality, the way you ground, the way you structure yourself within the second house Leo energy and the principle of Bhavam. There's a possibility to gain wealth, but it being blocked by unknown futures of change, instability and futures of change. Don't worry, things will work out. There's something about your friends that will help you, especially their actions or their disorientations, where you can provide a sense of support for them, especially through the divine feminine that runs naturally through the first house of moksha, the fourth house. Your energy in terms of great creativity, great wealth, emotional support for these people, especially people during times of war, conflict, people trying to essentially ground themselves in terms of this conflict. You can be there to help them and alleviate certain karmas that you're here to execute. There also is an interesting thing that is tied around Neptune in retrograde in the energy of Pisces, activating your ninth house. There are lessons to be had and gifts to be had in terms of the inner conflict with others. But this type of inner conflict is almost it's almost collective. People are sharing this affliction that Taurus is currently going through. It's been going through for a while. Taurians are not having an easy time. They haven't. It's been that way for many years now, I would say. Many months, many cycles, for as long as I've been doing readings. Let's see here. There are more secrets. But basically, it's also an important thing to focus on your health. I'm not a medical astrologer, nor am I a medical practitioner, but the first house is all about your connection of body, mind, and soul, and the fusion that is there in terms of this moon energy. This is a time to heal, to let things be programmed through a solar lens, okay? And you will become fortunate in terms of your health, integrated with body, mind, and soul during this time period. Most of the conflict will come from others or people from the future. They will challenge something about your 8th house. Your 8th house is the ability to clairvoyantly see through the dualistic modes and the heightened modes of intellect and Aquarian energy. And with Pluto in retrograde there's a possibility for you to define and gain a lot of spiritual wealth during this time period. It's been a motif for a lot of people, at least in terms of this month. collectively, because this is, of course, a collective chart reading. Anyways, hopefully that's given some insight for this month. I do wish you well. Thank you. Bye-bye. An interesting thing, at least in terms of this month, July, we're doing a prognosis. Today is the 20th of June, 2024, and yeah, so this is a bit of a forecast for the new moon's energy on the 5th of July, and it's going to be ringing throughout the month. What I see here primarily is an activation, at least from the moon in Cancer, and a progression to the second house of Leo, and furthermore, from the principle of Bhavad Bhavam, which is the house of houses, the energy moves from the second house into Leo, in particular the 11th house or the 12th house, which is an activation of a mystical path. The new moon's energy in conjunction with Venus, activating a mystical experience of some sort. I wouldn't be surprised if there were certain situations in terms of relationships, or perhaps karmas related to relationships, that actually activate or stimulate some sort of mystical dimension, okay, for the energy of Leo. It's very interesting. So I'm moving over to the chart. And the chart is for the 6th of July in particular, 15 degrees of Leo, so this is basically a Lagna reading, so it's based on the ascendant. And with Leo on the ascendant, a number of things do occur, especially in the latter half of the house system. So the 8th, 10th, and the 11th and 12th houses are very much activated, at least for this month in particular. There is a very strong mystical edge or mystical dimension that activate the later houses of moksha, which is basically emancipation, the spiritual plane, found through the other, the mystery of existence coming very strong this month in particular. Now, in conjunction with the moon, the dispositor, the main influence of Leo, which is, of course, the sun, is placed in the 12th house. And as you can see here, the 12th house is very much activated with a dual sextile, creating also a very interesting trine right here. So it creates this very recognizable triangle that create a type of reality of freeing up, transformation, and transforming and liberating through the new moon's energy, bringing in a new cycle of death and regeneration. On a spiritual plane, it frees up certain karmas, okay? This has to do with the alleviation of collective karmas within collective systems, spiritual communities, and transforming through that primarily. With Saturn in retrograde in the 8th house, producing the effect also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a very stimulating time in terms of creativity. Seeing this, the 8th and the 12th and the 10th, there's a way to do things and execute things and produce an effect of clearing up karma, as I've mentioned, but also in terms of career, a shift or a change, an ending is signified through either a career or a way of thinking, a way of doing things on a very subliminal level. And generally speaking, it's a very harmonious time, at least in terms of relations with others, especially if you are in a significant relationship with another. the square, or rather the opposition between Mercury and Pluto in retrograde on the 1st and 7th axis creates disharmonious, or at least challenging situations with other people in general. People will generally have their placement into a future that is unknown, or that is very much influenced by major change that is blocked. So these people will sustain one of two realities, one of two fields of vibration. One of them is not very well developed, and because of such, this type of square activates a split in terms of one way of thinking, one way of doing things, especially with the lower degrees of Leo. There's around the 6th degree, there's Mercury there, and there's something about being influenced by an intermediary, Jupiter, in Gemini in the 11th. Okay, so there's a teacher out there that's going to help you in terms of your own personal connection, if you have one. Also bringing in future connections, ones that don't exist yet but are being manifested. It will be arranged by some sort of figurehead, by somebody older, by someone who guides or leads the energy of Leo, at least for the time being. Let's see, principles of Bhavapavam. Once again, with the dispositor in the 12th, there's also an activation of the 1st, obviously. Not right now, thank you, yeah. But there is something else. Let's see here. The 1st house being activated from the 12th stimulates, once again, a rebirth, but it's like it's very purifying, this energy. At the end of chapters, the end of something, when it comes to like a path, a peaceful ending. Generally speaking, these squares are very difficult in the 12th and the 10th, so some sort of new reality is coming and transformed through the 8th house cusp. So we'll know more in the future, but hopefully that's been at least somewhat a prognosis, somewhat a decent prognosis in terms of the energy of Leo. So very mystical time, very abstract, very creative, lots of transformation, contention in terms of dealing with other people in general. It's advised you go deeply within and stay in the present moment. Too many people will have their head kind of up their asses and in the future. And they also stimulate a type of hidden change that's going on a collective level. Saturn, which is here in the 8th house, produces also a change, a reflective change of deep, I would say deep spirituality. Activated through a 12th house connection, but also a 1st house connection. So people are doing the same thing as you. They're bringing out this type of rebirth system, and it's all happening in July. All right, hopefully that helps. Take care. Thank you. Greetings to Virgo. This is Ron from Terror of the Twin Sun. I am working in this particular prognosis on the 21st of June, Friday, 2024, and this is a prognosis for the new moon energy on July 5th, which is occurring in a moon in Cancer. Okay, and this is a prognosis for the month of July in terms of activation of the house of houses for the energy of Virgo. Now, your dispositor, Mercury, Okay. Will be an interesting thing to focus on in terms of the chart reading, but in terms of the house of houses, your current position in terms of Virgo is 3 houses away from the new moon energy. Plus, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 houses away. There's something about a higher form of intellect being developed here, and it has to do with the future. Okay, an Aquarian signature is activated through the moon, and that's the sun combust the energy of the moon. So solar programming through the technology of the moon as a reflective tool for our own spiritual attunement that is activated through the 11th house for you in the energy of Cancer. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, on a cardinal level, the modality of the moon pushes forward the houses of moksha through the 11th house for you, meaning that your dreams, your ambitions come through the Divine Mother. For one thing, at this point, they're activated and they become combust with the sun's energy, allowing for a mode of purification of your own goals, your own belief systems, and also those that are impressed upon you with the collective conscious. Okay, and that's the Jungian collective conscious, the sort of the underlying thread that sort of produces grander narratives. Okay, and it's through the Divine Mother, through the Chariot, through the energy of Cancer. Okay, in your 11th house. So it is a harmonious aspect. It's a harmonious time. It creates a sextile, 60 degrees away and to and from. So basically, there also is a possibility of you benefiting by making new friends, new connections, and harmonious ideas of brotherhood or sisterhood with other people in order to produce the effects of the 11th house. So generally speaking, it's an auspicious time, especially on the 5th of July and beyond throughout the month as the moon progresses. Now we're going into 15 degrees of Virgo as the ascendant in order to see the complications or the benefits of this new moon. And once again, it's a moon in Cancer, sun and moon conjunct in the 11th house, as I've mentioned. Okay, so you may deal with others, and the relationship with others will be harmonious enough to produce certain effects that give you lessons in terms of the collective good. And this selfless energy is very much indicative of compassion that's geared towards other relations, or relations where there's like a hidden order or hidden design, a hidden structure, Saturn in retrograde in Pisces in your 7th house, that activates harmonious relationships primarily. Harmonious. And it's like the hand of God takes over and you are led to communities of great wealth. Okay. And to a knowledge system of the highest form of intellect. The Akash, anything that has to do with spiritual technology is activated during this time. Jupiter is going to be interesting. Activates around 11 or 12 houses, or someone who's going to be a student or teacher on your MC. They're going to lead you on a certain type of path, a quest, a mission. Okay, and it's harmoniously sextiled with Mercury. Okay, so Mercury is generally in good state. However, with your Mercury, well, I mean, with the energy of the collective, in terms of your in terms of your ascendant or the placement of Virgo away, there's a deep sort of spiritual undertone here. It has to do with an independent mind or an ego that is based in spiritualism, but also can be misconstrued. And it brings certain blocks to the true nature of Aquarius. So pretty spacious reading, I would say, so far. Very abstract. Mercury gets a benefit by clearing out certain karmas with the 10th house. Jupiter will clear that out. Even interdimensional travelers or high souls, Mahatmas, or guides will come and clear out certain things that have to do with collective energies or collective karmas in spiritual communities, especially blocks within that. Now, your house of work is very much accentuated here. It has to do with a futuristic oriented way of seeing things, doing things in terms of your grounding, your work, which is 6 houses away, is in the cusp of Aquarius. And with Pluto in retrograde there, it's going to bring this purification energy through the solar programming of Leo, and Mercury helping that. So Mercury will help the sun, will help the sun to produce a certain effect. Okay, this has to do with a higher service of some sort and purify anything that has to do with your house of work or your daily routine. So I find this all very fascinating. The House of Houses show a deep spiritual undertone with Mercury, your dispositor, in the energy of Leo. For the time being, basically, it's a path of purification, a way for guides to help you clear out certain karmas and bring forward this really harmonious thing where you relate to others and gain lessons about a collective good. For this time period. All right, well, hopefully that helps. Hopefully it wasn't too spacious or anything like that. Wishing you well this month. Do take care now. Bye-bye. Greetings and welcome to my dear Librans out there. This is Ron from Tarot of the Twin Sun. So we are working for prognosis in the month of July 2024. So the 7th month. We have just gone through the solstice and had a full moon in Capricorn. And this new moon energy is going to be in about 14.23 degrees of Cancer. Okay, so that's where we're at. The sun and the sun and the moon. The sun combusts the moon, so basically they're on a very tight conjunction, and we have here the energy of Libra, which is 4 houses away from the moon, which creates an interesting square to the energy of Libra. So it's not going to be the easiest of times in terms of the beginning of the month. This is, of course, for July 5th, but this is the energy for the entire month at the same time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 houses away. So this aspect is basically a square. It addresses 4 and 10. So it has to do with karmas that an individual, a Libra, might be sort of challenged in, and it activates the 10th house from the ascendant in Libra. Okay. So it's not the easiest of houses. There's going to be the energy of an authority figure, for example, a mother figure who is kind of a boss. It has that energy where the divine feminine is placed in the 10th house. So it's a superior power of knowledge, wisdom, as well as intuition that comes from the infinite. And it impresses upon you a sense that you must address karmas, that there has to be a place of action that activates your 10th house, or the 10th house cusp away from Libra. Okay. So it's going to be an interesting month. We're going to look now at a birth chart that's timed on the 6th of July. And it's like right near the new moon, and We'll look at this to see principles of Bhavat Bhavan, the house of houses. We've already addressed that the 10th house is activated for Libras. So the sun, the moon, and Venus on a collective level are very much conjunct. The divine feminine steps in and provides a challenge to produce wealth. Okay, this has to do with work, your everyday routine. Okay, Saturn in retrograde in Pisces, and that activates your sixth house cusp. So with the sixth house cusp in the energy of Pisces, there is a very high key signature of selfless service, naturally to Libra ascendants especially. And it produces the effect of well, basically doing things for others. As you know, Libra, Venus, its dispositor, is currently in the 10th house, okay? So when Moon and Venus conjunct in the 10th house for Libras, and there's a south node placed on your ascendant, there is a need to address karmas that are tied to mother, that are tied to woman, and also woman of power, okay? When the sun combusts the energy of Venus and Moon in the 10th house, then there is a sort of saturation of that conjunction, but at the same time, there's a secret wisdom behind it. So you're to embrace the divine feminine, and there's something about the solar programming that's going on now that activates your 10th house of work, that activates your 10th house of prarabdha and karma, collective karma even, okay? And you might find that you come into head with the desires of others, especially children or people who behave like children in terms of their own significance, okay, with especially the north and the south node, Rahu and Ketu, placed on your 7th and 1st axis. Not highly aspected, but it does activate essentially people who are here to inspire you. People are here to seek your help or guidance in some sort of way. You will also be guided to somewhat define yourself in these situations by what they do. There's a lot of fire in this month, in order that things can sort of lead you on the right path, especially when it comes to aligning and realigning your karmas in terms of dedication, in terms of work, in terms of reaching even collective karmas that have to do with narratives of feminism or of divine feminism. Nothing toxic, but most certainly this is an auspicious time for transformation as well, okay, with your 6th, 8th, and 10th activated. It's interesting because it's sort of a communal energy, right? That addresses a survival instinct, and on a collective level, people are dealing with things like inflation. People are dealing with their instinct to live and to be productive and to be stabilized. The energy of Mars and Uranus conjunct in Taurus. This type of conjunction creates an affliction, conflict, a collective conflict in terms of war and conflict there. You can address yourself in terms of your own work and working to free up some of the divine feminine energy and to somewhat attain a type of liberation, a freedom of certain karmas, okay? This is also an auspicious time to meet a guru, with 9th house activation of Jupiter in the 9th in Gemini. There's something about meeting or being guided by foreigners or gurus or saints or mahatmas, people or guides or masters that are outside of the physical realm, that can actually guide you and push forward the 11th house, Mercury in Leo, and it opposes your 5th house with Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. Okay, now when this opposition between Pluto and Mercury is very it's very interesting. It's like weeding out kind of certain timelines, and if you listen to the guru, you listen to the saint, you listen to your Mahatma, something like that, you listen to those masters that come from the dream world or abroad or other dimensions. You have to identify your guides, of course, but there's this magician-like energy that is tied around the teacher, around the master, and they can actually provide for you a lot of networking skills when it comes to weeding out certain timelines. Okay, now timelines can be jumped accordingly. You don't have to stay on exactly one of them. For example, on one timeline there's a time of war, on another timeline there's a time of peace. You can choose to manifest one of those somehow, and collectively with the energy of Mercury in the 11th, in the energy of Leo, there is a great need for an independent mind, and it goes against certain sustained realities, the dual waveform of Aquarius, and you can choose to figure out which one to sort of to devote your time to make a goal, to make an ambition. And willpower, manas, is very, very powerful on a collective level. We are sharing this sort of biomechanical experience to align our neurological capacities, our intellect, and our manas to bring forward certain realities, different futures. Okay, with the ascendant currently, the south node there's a very strong indication here on Libra. Okay, to balance things out in terms of justice, karmic justice. And it's not your job to get to balance yourself out. It's your job to help others in balancing them out in some sort of way, at least for the time being, especially when it comes to your situation with other people, significant others in particular, soulmates, karmic partners, whatever. You will be rewarded. Mostly, there's a lot of, from the house of houses, from the 9th to the 11th, from that's the guru to the heightened student, the heightened mind, the guru to the heightened mind, from the 6th to the 8th, from work to spirituality, from the 8th to the 10th, from the jump from the 2nd house of moksha to the 3rd house of moksha, arguably. There is, arguably, there's something about finding people who are similar, that are here to clear out that spiritual baggage, to even things out, and you're here to essentially adjudicate that somehow. Okay, and it's a very auspicious time, very auspicious. Look to the energy of Gemini, look to the sun, look also to look to ways of balancing left and right, balancing the dualities somehow within your own self, so that you can help others to do the same. Okay, that's about it for now. I was a bit delayed. It's just been a very very lazy summer solstice, and that full moon just took a lot out of me. It's weird. It's like around full moons I get energized but also depleted at the same time. Especially with all this solar energy, at least in the northern hemisphere, it's very, very intensive and very lazy at the same time. Very lazy intensity about my work. So hopefully this has come to some sort of indication that there are systems out there that can be worked with, and that you can find some sort of freedom from certain karmas. Okay, so hopefully that helps. Take care. Thank you. Greetings and welcome to the energy of Scorpio. This is Ron from Terror of the Twin Sun. Interesting new moon energy for this month, July, prognosis for July. I'm reading on the 24th of June, and we are looking at the new moon's energy. Also, this month we'll be looking at the principles of Bhavat Bhavam, the house of houses, to see what kind of activations are occurring astrologically on a collective level, but especially from the perspective of an Aquarius, or rather a Scorpio ascendant. So we can take this type of reading and apply it on a collective level for all Scorpios, but also in the context of your own. And this is how the outer world, or the world that we construct in terms of the collective, produce certain things that we would have to deal with karmically on a collective level, okay? In terms of harmony, this is going to be at least a 2-week period from the month of July 5th, or the day of July 5th, and it's going to activate a trine to the energy of Cancer from your placement of Scorpio. So basically it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The moon is 9 houses away from Scorpio, and it activates a trine. So it activates one part of an equilateral triangle in terms of degrees in the astrological chart. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 houses away. Okay, so what does this mean? It means that the guru comes in terms of the divine feminine. It comes and it produces a very harmonious energy that allows you to do things and to become a bit psychic in a way. But it's a type of psychic where you can go and read from libraries or databases, from the Akash, that are metaphysical, that are spiritual. Okay. You also have the chance, especially if you identify with the Divine Mother or any incarnations of the Divine Mother through Mahatmas, female Mahatmas in particular. You can find that energy. This is the foreign mother. This is the mother that is cast out. This is the mother that is the guru, the bodhisattva of all of us who have the spiritual capacity of the divine womb. And yeah, big time, this is a time of activation for lessons in terms of that, or knowledge systems coming through the energy of a Sagittarian energy, okay? This is like heightened intellect, heightened emotional intellect that is possible in terms of an activation for you for now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's also going to be an interesting sort of thing where others will come to you and seek you out as a house of change, a house of transformation. These will be women mostly. They will seek you out in terms of a creative energy or even a romance, something like that. And it will bring forward a harmonious time of transformation for this month. Okay, now we're moving into a transit chart. And this is for the 6th of July, which is a day after the new moon, a little less than a day after the new moon. And as you can see here, the sun and the moon are basically conjunct in your 9th house, in 9th houses away from Scorpio. Okay, so once again, there's something about information that comes from out of nowhere, from other galaxies that come and essentially impart on you some sort of greater wisdom. With the sun occulting the moon, combusting the moon, then and the Venusian energy, it's a lot of this type of programming is very bright, but it is it's subtle at the same time. there is a purification, a time of purification. There's something about the roots of your line that is coming into highlight around this time, and it also activates a trine to the fifth house. Okay, fifth house, Saturn in retrograde in the energy of Pisces, about 23 degrees. So that's a very auspicious aspect. Also, Neptune in retrograde in Pisces as well. Your fifth house is activated. So there will be situations dealing with others, a need for independence, pure independence, freedom of love and expression, art, creativity, a lot of fire, and a lot of water in those dignitaries. And it is an auspicious time to be creative, to seek things abroad, to start new things, to have great ambitions and great projects of independence and freedom and liberation. A lot of this will be addressed in terms of relationships, sextiles, dual sextiles that highlight Mars or the afflictions of your significant others in terms of their actions that come from a state of conflict or difficulty, trying to find themselves in their actions. Okay, so with your descendant, the Taurian energy of Mars and Mars conjunct Uranus allows for conflict and some sort of peaceful resolution, conflict and release in some sort of way. It's going to be hard to sort of understand like what kind of complexes are being pushed forward in the agendas of others, but it does push forward a system of learning through others, through other situations, especially when it comes to non-dependent type of energy, freeing up love, freeing up creativity, freeing up your situations in terms of that. There's a way to sort of contact an esoteric master with Jupiter in the 8th house in Gemini to magically sort of alleviate certain karmas that are being produced on a collective level, 10th and 4th house. Okay, I mentioned this before. This is a time of weeding, of weeding out through Mercury in Leo as well as Pluto in retrograde in Aquarius. The opposition there, this is a time of weeding out certain timelines and purifying the paths of the mind. So this has to do with concentration. On a collective level, it's going to be hard for people to concentrate, but if you can find that concentration, there's something about a very creative and dharmic path that is activated in your 5th house and your 9th house, which are placed in moksha cusps. This is Pisces and this is Cancer. So there is a very strong indication here of meeting others and their actions, using those actions to produce a certain effect, a type of tutelage, something academic, something that is like you learn through your connections, especially your friends or your significant others, your people, and you are able to align to Dharma somehow this month. Okay, so that's all I'm going to give you for now, my dear Scorpios. Last thing is it's not highly sort of aspected, but we have here the 6 and the 12 being activated. That is the energy of the North Node, Rahu, and the South Node, Ketu, in the 6 and 12. Not highly aspected, but producing the effect of a very spiritual time frame. At least for the time being, I do wish you well. Thank you. Bye-bye. Greetings and welcome to my dear Sagittarians out there. Sagittarius, this is Ron from Tarot of the Twin Sun. I am doing a prognosis for the month of July 2024. This is an earlier sort of reading, a bit delayed, but yes, June 24th, we're recording this at 1:22 p.m. PST. So the new moon that is occurring on the 5th of July, 2024, is occurring in Cancer at 14.23 degrees of Cancer. That is when the sun occults the moon, and essentially a new moon combusts the moon's energy. Okay, this is a transference of power, total consummation of the moon in terms of the Earth's placement. Yes, so in terms of contingency, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 houses, as well as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 houses away. This is going to be an interesting activation for you. It actually activates the finger of God from the moon, according to this, to the ascendant, especially ascendant in Sagittarius or any Sagittarius placement. And we're going to do a house reading for this. So basically, if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 houses away, this is a time for transformation, and it's a quincunx. So the finger of God is going to push in the yod formation, so it's opposite moon, and then the houses contingent to it. So it would be Aquarius and Sagittarius are greatly affected by the quincunx energy in this new moon. So it's a very auspicious time to sort of be guided in some sort of way, especially towards a path of transformation, finding occult knowledge or psychic revelations in terms of Sagittarian energy. Also, this is here to address 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 houses away, any blocks in terms of your manifestation of work, and also of seva, of service of some sort, towards a greater goal, a greater ambition. Okay, so now we'll look into a birth chart time. Then this is for the 6th of July, when the new moon energy is still there, and primarily from 15 degrees of Sagittarius, it activates once again the moon in Cancer, okay, which is in your 8th house. So mostly the activation, it stimulates through 2 sextiles, the 4th, 6th, and the 8th houses. 4th, 6th, 8th houses. So what does that mean? Well, for one thing, it's like a brotherhood or a sisterhood, fraternity, and a pathway of initiation in terms of the sacred gateway of Gemini, the 3rd house, okay, through brothers and sisters, through friends, and through community, in order to produce a massive and significant change with the 3 planets, moon conjunct Venus, conjunct the sun, new moon activating the 8th house. So there's a major transformation this month for Sagittarians, big time. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's gonna help to define something in terms of your work or your place, your path. Okay. Further, there are 2 oppositions of Venus and it looks like the moon, Venus and Vesta, oppositions to Pluto in retrograde in your 3rd house. There's something about versions coming out of your friend circle, people versing or sort of showing more than one side. The people that are in your life excuse me, are going to sort of stimulate this change, give you a lesson, grant you a lesson. It has to do with a time of purification, when the sun, when Venus, the sun, and when Vesta sort of activate your 3rd house by opposing it. So there's a block in terms of that, and mostly it comes through relationships with others, purifying situations there, getting rid of old baggage or karmas with multi-faced friends. Okay, so it's it's Gemini. It's basically the magician, the magician of the light and the magician of the dark, and the magician in between. So there could be something about your 3rd house, which is firmly in the cusp of Aquarius, that has to do with hidden energy or hidden motivations of Pluto, okay, that define and structure different realities. Often you'll find that maybe you find that a lot of your friends, they have this future orientation. There's like this weird sort of unavailability with a lot of them. Especially during this time period, there will be some sort of hidden motivations or hidden actions that are going to come to contention with the way you are going through transformation, the way you are defining your higher mind, okay? And it's gonna oppose these people. Don't worry about it. I think generally speaking, you're going to be covered. Jupiter is in your 7th house and it's in the energy of Gemini. So all this 3rd house, Gemini energy, and also the Kama house's activation is very interesting because from what I see, Jupiter, your ruler, will be activated by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 houses. This is primarily a very spiritual time. When it comes to relationships, you're going to be granted great gifts from Mercury in Leo in the 9th, primarily through a sextile, and it's going to grant you with significant situations that are here to teach you. When Jupiter is placed in your 7th house, then there is some certain things that can pan out in terms of father figures in your life. Even though you may have friends or you have lovers that are in the gateway of Gemini, they're going to be granted or granting you gifts in terms of major intellect, an upgrade in intellect, okay, during this time period. So look to learn through others. Your work is going to be, generally speaking, very well aspected, activating the 3rd, primarily 4th, and 6th houses, as well as the 8th house. So any sort of transitions that you go through in terms of your work will be naturally blessed. There also is some sort of spiritual past life reckoning in terms of Libra, your 10th house cusp, 11th house cusp rather, in the MC there. Interesting. And it's going to really activate something. I think you have to really sort of be careful what you wish for, because you're going to be granted it. That's generally speaking always true. The mind is a very powerful thing, and right now the stimulation of Gemini, Aquarius, and your 11th house, all of this is very auspicious for you to ground in a certain type of way and become resourceful in a certain type of way. So hopefully that's given something of a positive note towards the beginning of the month of July and further. Wishing you well for this month. Take care now. Bye-bye. Greetings and welcome to my dear Capricorns out there. This is Ron from Terror of the Twin Sun. This is a specific reading for Capricorn Ascendant. However, you can use any planetary placement in order to divine for the month of July 2024. This is Ron from Terror of the Twin Sun. So we're going to go ahead and look at the new moon on the 5th of July. This is a recording done on the 25th of June. So it's a prognosis for the next month. And the new moon cycle is going to be activating 7 houses away from the energy of the moon, and from Capricorn, the cusp of Capricorn, especially the ascendant in Capricorn, the 7th house is very much activated. So 7 becomes a very important number for this month, and it is July, and well, a lot of it has to do with the type of service to others. Primarily to a mother figure, for specific Capricorns out there, having to serve the mother, or an activation of relationships wherein the emotional needs of the other become, they take precedence, okay? This is the Divine Mother also takes precedence. So you're going to be called to certain relationships, specific relationships with others, and it activates Venusian and lunar energy this month in particular. So the Divine Feminine comes and stakes a big sort of space within your significant relationships with others, okay? The outer world, especially And that is primarily it. There is something of an act of service to be had, to be done, to be executed. And Saturn blesses the lessons of Venus. Saturn gifts Venus. Saturn gifts essentially a type of relationship or other relationships that have an emotional key signature. A lot of things hidden and combust with the Sun and Venus together, along with the Moon. So it's going to be a very interesting thing wherein you're going to be able to help somehow others in terms of the Saturnian influence that you have over them. Okay. And it's going to be very interesting. So we're moving now into the main reading, which is the House of Houses reading. We'll be looking at, just like the 7th house, relationship to and from the Moon from Capricorn. We're going to be looking at a bit of house understanding. There's a lot that has to do with collective desires, okay? You might personally sort of embody these this month somehow in terms of your own self. The first 7 houses are activated pretty deeply in terms of relationships, in terms of creativity, and the 7th house. So the 3, 5, 7 are very active. There's a dual sextile here that accentuates a time of war and conflict in terms of the 5th house, okay? And the gifts come through the energy of the Sun. They come through a relation to the Sun and the Sun's movement throughout the cusp of Cancer for this month. So what we can glean from this essentially is a number of rewards that will come through relationships, through romances even, but also through friends, and trying to negotiate the fine line between those. And you might personally identify with these people, relate with them in some sort of way. Saturn will gift your dispositor. Saturn is 3 houses away in retrograde in the energy of Pisces. Now, Saturn retrograde in Pisces is interesting in that a lot of the things that are abstract are going to remain abstract in terms of your situation to others. Often your own relationships in terms of brotherhood or sisterhood, especially for Capricorn ascendants, there's a 3rd house energy of Pisces in it. So often the ones that you truly relate to are mystics, or they have a very deep need or a deep abstraction about them. And this sort of structure of abstraction, this impulse, or this kind of this mythical structure that defines your core relationships or your neighborhood, the place where you dwell, it's going to have a certain effect and activate primarily your 5th and 2nd houses. So there's an activation here of Saturn retrograde and Neptune retrograde in Pisces that will produce the effect of some sort of reward from the future, financial reward from the future. One thing that I've noticed for this month is a interesting opposition between Venus, the Moon, and Pluto in retrograde. Okay, so Venus and the Moon will be in Cancer, as well as Mercury in the 8th house, and they oppose Pluto in retrograde. Okay, so whatever is going on in terms of a spiritual war or the multiplication of different realities, sustained realities using M theory or the multiverse theory, there's something about a process collectively that is weeding out certain logarithms or algorithms, ways of putting out certain futures, and collectively it's going to become very real for you in time as you are gifted with certain situations or relations with others that also go through this time of purification. So basically, people from the future that is in the cusp of Aquarius will come and grant you an interesting sort of new timeline in terms of where you can jump to. Okay, and this is all done in Pluto's auspices, so it's very subtle. And the money that comes in, or the finances, the energy that comes in terms of your own stability, comes in very subtly with Pluto in retrograde. So once Pluto goes direct, the reward will come properly. Pluto's a ruler for primarily Scorpionic energy, and that is in your 11th house. So certain dreams will die out, regenerate, especially when it comes to your wealth or perhaps your career. And there's a purification process of your own material resources that align with that whittling down. Okay. So what else? Saturn in retrograde, which is your dispositor, also does through the house of houses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 houses. Your 11th house is activated. That's interesting. The MC here shows on the 10th, the 11th cusp, but usually it's the 10th, 10th and the 4th. It's very strange. Anyways, there is something about, not highly aspected, but 11 houses away from the energy of Saturn to your ascendant, and then 1, 2, 3. There's something about your desires, kama and manas, that is being whittled down. There's a concentration point that if you spend this month in terms of, here's the takeaway, if you spend this month in terms of your own self-respect and dignity, in terms of your relation to others, very much so you'll be rewarded in a way that has to do with the path of purification in Aquarian energy. Okay, Pluto retrograde in the 2nd house. What else? There's something about the 7th that's highly activated. This time, especially if you're in the northern hemisphere, the time of summer and the solstice, all of this is very auspicious for you to re-energize in terms of relations, but also those other people will go through their own sort of sense of solar programming. When the sun combusts Venus and the moon, it's like the wisdom of the fathers comes to bless the Divine Mother. So there's a fine, interesting relation between the sun and the Divine Mother here. Let's see here. What else is there? Saturn is in Pisces. Neptune's right there. So there is some form of definition through self, through relations, especially through your neighborhood, your city, places of study. If you're doing any study in terms of this time period, it will be very rewarding, but most of your information will come through relationships this month. So enjoy. Please remember to like or subscribe if you need more future content. I'll be doing tarot next month, and there probably is possibly some sort of move that I'll be undergoing, but wishing you well. All right, take care now. Bye bye.